Whew, guys, just hiked up to the top of this mountain. I don't know, it was like a 5-mile hike. I definitely wore, hold on, let me get your breath, the wrong shoes for the journey, but I thought it'd be cool to do a tutorial at the top. I'm just kidding, I'm in the backyard. Anyway, hey guys, what's going on? This is Derek. Just a quick little live video from the backyard, mostly because the family's inside having tons of fun, and I need to step outside real quick and do this live capture, and just want to talk about what to do when people don't value what you do as a designer. And this stems from Teresa's question in the feed earlier. She asks, actually she had a client that wanted to see a comp. She did a video comp and they wanted to pay her $15 a video, which, as anybody can tell, it's a lot more work than $15 an hour. So the way that I would say that that boils down is they just, part of it is uneducated. They just don't know what it's worth or what it takes to produce high quality video, or maybe it's a web design, or maybe it's a logo, or maybe it's, you know, anything that you guys might do as creatives, or even photography, especially photography. Because they think all you're doing is pushing a button, right? So how do you educate people or clients, potential clients, how do you educate them that what you're doing is actually worth money, right? And so there's a few ways you can do it. And for us, what we've done is, anytime you can control the situation, what I like to do is, before we even start to talk money, or before I even do any work at all, we talk money. So, you know, it's probably a hard lesson for you, Teresa, as far as having done some work, showing them a video, and then finding out that they only want to give you, you know, 15 bucks a video. But also, we're apparently over a very active airport. It's like the 10th plane that's come right over the top. Anyway, so what I would say is, we always begin the conversation with money. And I know that's difficult. I know in society, a lot of times you're told not to talk about money. But if you're going to do business, you got to talk about money, and you got to do it almost right away, almost immediately. So the way that we do that, the way that I do that, our agency name was called Mitchell's Garage. It was in honor of my grandfather. He was a mechanic. And so it was Mitchell's Garage, Creative Media Chop Shop. So what we do is, when we talk about the money thing, is I usually talk to clients, say, hey, you know, I know you're looking for this project, really excited about it, but I'm just curious, like, do you see yourself, and I would relate it to the business name. So I'd say, do you see yourself needing like a good, you know, like a Vespa, just something to get you there, or maybe a good Chevrolet, or maybe a Cadillac. You're looking for the upper end, you know, or you know, fill in the blank, whatever kind of cars you want to talk about. But we would do it in a way where we kind of approach the topic before we even bring up a true value or true dollar. We would say, you know, what are you looking for here? Can you show me some websites, or maybe some videos, or some different things that you think you want? Because a lot of times too, is when we're working with clients, they haven't been educated to talk about what kind of you know, how to talk about art, or how to talk about photography, or how to talk about the different services we provide as creatives. And so what they think they're saying, they really have no idea, right? So you have to kind of show them samples of, okay, well, you know, here's this, it probably costs about, you know, and then you can name a value. But the difficult part with, as soon as you start to say, okay, this will be $1,000, or this will be $15, or whatever you're going to charge, they're going to hold you to that. So you got to be really careful. And I try never to give a price the very first day, because again, you need to do some what I call discovery, to figure out what they truly need. They might say they need a website, but they might also need a brochure, or business cards, or a handful of other services too. So on the first, I guess you can call it the first date, but the first time you actually sit down with a client, so you're asking them, you're getting a feel for what they need before you even deliver anything. And then, you know, they'll share with you. You can keep asking them questions and things like that. And then what I like to do is say, okay, this is great, you know, and if when they answer that question about, like, well, I just need a good Vespa, you know, a good really baseline, I'll be, okay, well, what's your budget? And they're almost never going to tell you the budget, because they're going to say, well, how much does it cost? Or no, they're going to say, how much do you charge, right? So it's never about what do I charge, because I could charge anything that I want, you know, high or low. It's about what is it worth. So I always reframe it with, what does it cost? So when you go to a shoe store, this is an example I've heard once. When I go to buy a pair of shoes, I might go into them and say, hey, how much do these Nikes cost? Or how much do you charge? Well, one store is not going to charge something different than the other. They're given the cost from the manufacturer. So they say, these shoes cost X amount. So when it comes to web design, or maybe your video, you can say, well, videos cost and name your price. You don't say I charge, because then they're going to immediately pitch you against the next creative who says, well, I charge, and maybe it's something totally different. So I always posit it that way. I say, okay, well, a website costs about this much, X to this, or X to X or whatever. And I say usually it really depends on the options you're looking for. So what kind of a paint job does the car need, or what kind of wheels does it need, or do you want the nice leather interior, or just the the basic cloth interior? So I ask these kinds of questions, and I posit it that way because then to them that makes sense. They're like, oh, well, when I go to buy a car, like, they get the fact that they cost different. They cost different depending on the options. So that helps them kind of get us on the same page with the vocabulary of what their expectations are. I would say communication is one of the number one things that typically cause a project to go sideways. Is you have one expectation of what it's going to be, and they have something totally different. So getting on that same page is huge, and that comes back into what I call discovery. So the discovery phase is after the first meeting, you kind of take a bunch of notes, ask a ton of questions about what they need, and then I never promise anything. I never promise that I'm gonna, that it's gonna cost X amount or what we're gonna do. What I say is, okay, awesome, thank you, I really enjoyed meeting with you. Let me think about this for a little bit, because I really want to make sure that we meet your needs. And that's how I posit it. I say, let me think about it. Give me some time. I'm gonna go back, do some more research, and then I'll get back to you with what I think it will cost. And again, I always say what it will cost, not what I'm going to charge, but what will it cost. And if they're able to give you a budget, all the better. Because if their budget is, from this point, Teresa, had you known from the get-go that they only wanted to give you $15 per video, you could have saved each other both, by just saying, my kids are over here looking at me. You could have saved them both that headache of wasting each other's time. So that's basically how I approach projects. And so then the next thing, and I mentioned this in a previous video, but if you discover that they just don't have the budget, there's nothing wrong with that, and you can say no or no thank you, right? You can be nice about it but still say no. What I would do is just say, okay, unfortunately our minimum, well, at this point, if you say charge, it sounds like what you charge, but you say at this point, our projects start at $500. We don't do anything less than that. So if your budget changes, we're happy to work with you, but until then, here's a couple other people you could go see if maybe they're willing or able to do it, but unfortunately we just don't do anything less than, and then figure out what your baseline is. So that's one way to handle those kinds of tough scenarios where you got somebody who thinks it should be cheap or free or whatever, and they're used to the sites like Fiverr or whatever, where they're doing things for $5 per deal. So I hope that helps somebody. Let me see if I got any comments tonight on this while we're here. Maybe it's not working for me, but anyway, just wanted to let you guys know I'm thinking about you, still on the road. So we'll do some more tutorials here in the near future. Don't forget to follow that new YouTube channel I've got. Link below. We got some new tutorials rolling out next week. And follow me on Instagram at dmitchelldesign if you want to. You don't have to, but that'd be cool. Whatever, we can be friends and stuff. And that's about it for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. I hope that weekend warriors, you guys that are out there hustling, that it went well for you. And have an awesome day, awesome evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow. So don't forget, you can post